I'm staff national. Oh, I'm staff of the authentication team in National Institute of Informatics in Japan. And today I'd like to talk about the latest activities about our authentication services. At first, I talk about three main services. These are main three services. First, Gakinen. Gakinen is Academic Identity and Access Management Federation in Japan. And second, UPKI. It's Certificate Issuing Service. Third, Eduroam GP. Maybe you know, Worldwide Roman Access Service in Japan. We're National Roman Operator, so in Japan. And first is about Gakinen. Gakinen has provided a stable trust framework and to academia in Japan. Nowadays, we receive these requests and issues from academic communities. Users don't have Gakinen accounts and so on. And these requests come from the need of academic digital transformation. In order to address these points, we launched 5 new working groups within Gakinen in financial year 2021. The goal of the working group is to build a new trust framework focused on identification and authentication. As we that these 5 working on is main components of the new Gakinen trust framework as shown in this slide. I'd like to share the Gakinen IAL and AAL Authenticator Registry, Ultros, and IDP hosting service. And I'd like to share 4 of these with you today. Well, Gakinen AL2 and IAL2 and AL2 is a policy that defines the assurance level of the identity verification and the strengths of authentication. Last year, we created policy documents for Gakinen AL2 and IAL2. And this year, we will test whether our policy is valid or not with some university and institutions. And we're also building a repository of authenticators that are comprehend with Gakinen IL2 and AL2. This year, we are hoping to test other authenticators and evaluate operational risks of these authenticators. Third, and our authentication proxy service, Ultros, has 2 functions. First is to build bridge between IDPs and SPs. And second is to provide IDs to academic people who don't have one. Last year, we added this second function to Ultros on October. And this year, we are aiming to connect with other ID platforms. And fourth, IDP hosting service is a service for universities and institutions that are not equipped to build their own IDP server. And last year, we launched the services as demonstrative experiments. And this year, we will make a plan for the next demonstrative experiments. And we are also trying to figure out how to make it easier easier for universities and institutions to maintain an IDP server. This is the statistics of Gakinen on participation of Gakinen. And IDP's number is 299. The number is reaching just about 30% of our target for academics to participate in Gaknen. We are hoping to increasing it. Gaknen is all.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So you've got almost universal adoption of the national, which I presume are very big universities or university systems. And so what sort of percentage of the academic landscape do you include by having those sorts of bigger organizations? Do you know I don't know what a national uni is versus the others. We only have one national uni in Australia, and that's because it's got it in its name, but it doesn't mean it's a national uni. That's just has it in its name. So that seems like a lot of organizations though that are there, right? I'll talk to you offline. But good. What national university? Yeah. Originally funded by the government. Also, a federally funded rather than provincial, or not federally, by the country. So the public university is originally started by the prefecture. It's a kind of so that's why we're calling the public university. So the number of the public university is around 100. And the private is so many, fucking a lot of private university in these countries.
Thank you.
So what I heard when the question you asked is how big of the academic population is these 299 connected organizations. How much more is it of the population in users, not in organizations?
So for instance, there are about 400 university is providing the doctor course. They has a doctor course. So from that point of view, at least 400 universities are doing a kind of the research itself. So have to be involved in this, the Gakunin Federation to be able to, to share the data or something for building up our upper layer services. But not only that, even in a small university. So for instance, in our case, we are providing the institutional repository cloud service for the university library. And we got almost 700 university has already employed our service as their institutional repository. So even though the small, tiny university is something like the further education, but still wanted to employ the launch something about the infrastructure, as same as big university.
So we have around 80% of our university college connected. That's 99.7% of our users.
Yes, but
that was the
that's the reality. That's the reality.
Yeah.
But even in a small university, they are getting the the research budget from the government. So in the meantime, so they have to follow up the the research data management or open the data in public or open access and open science. So they have to utilize our service. So if we think about the cost effective manner, so it's not the not the economic, the rule, but there's a researcher who wanted to utilize our service, even in a small university. That's why.
So you are research heavy.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like APNIC does the similar sort of thing where they do the size of an AS number. So although there's lots of AS numbers and networks out there, some actually contain a lot of users and some don't contain many users. So if you support
that group particularly well, then you get a lot of the community involved and doing the right thing. So yeah.
So I've a question of one of your previous slides, your Authos service. It looks like more a hub and spoke type federation rather than a mesh federation. Are you migrating to a hub and spoke type federation?
At the same time.
So we are providing the IDP hosting service by using the IDaaS service from the, the commercial side. So, and at the same time, we also has, the proxy service. But in case of the Outlaws, and the proxy service is a service inviting the commercial researcher to our, the Gakunin Federation. So there's a kind of a federation provided by the Ministry of the Economy or something. It's a kind of, the business side ID federation. So we'd like to make a bridge between the two in order to invite the researcher in the corporate side. So that's our main intention to the authors.
So I have a total another question. You talked about authentication and multi-factor, connecting it to IL2 or AAL2. Sorry. Are you going to make that information public? Or is it readable for us as not
Of course, please can I ask you to show his slide?
My PC's battery is dead.
Gone.
that happens.
Really?
Why I ask this?
No. So I mean, in his slides, there's an English link. So maybe they are trying to, to translate in English.
That's perfect, because there is no good way of knowing if an authenticated type is an AL2 or not. You need to do some type of what you are doing also, very good, some type of risk management around it. You need to decide if Microsoft Authenticator that and that level is an AL2 or not. We do the same.
Okay. So we means that RIFETs or your Swedish Federation?
Swedish Federation. Swedish home organizations that want to use a specific second factor type or MFA type must explain to us why it fulfills the rule requirements. But if we can some way or another help each other in that discussion, that will make life simpler for us all.
Yeah, it's important. So we're going to translate it in English, of course. Now it's the AI is completely translate from the Japanese to English, so there's no problem with that. But anyway, we're going to translate it and send it to the next TNC meeting or RIFES meeting, and he's going to join that.
Yeah. Next RIFES meeting is at TNC, so yeah. And yeah, so that should be good, because we need to share those things if it's possible. It's not always possible, and I know that I talked a lot with ASACO, and we talked about your assurance profiles, discussing that against risk assurance, so on, and that's good.
That's his responsibility, to bring the English version.
Yeah, but I've talked to him and a lot about that. So you have slides because it's not looking out.
Just I'm talking.
Have to wait for long, the opening ceremony session.
And I'd like to talk about UPKI and Jerome. And the UPKI it's easier. Last year we responded document revisions about Google's and so on. And in Edgeroom, GP, we provided 2 IDP services, but last year we started to integrate IDP services and to concentrate our resources. So, and this year we are helping to develop support for open roaming and a Passpoint, and to improve IDP services. So, anyway, we provide needed services depend on time for Japan's academics. So if you are interested in our projects, please contact me. Do you have any questions?
What sort of certificates do you offer through UPKI? And do you feel under pressure from Let's Encrypt, taking a large section of that audience and market?
Yeah.
Here, OB
Yep.
is the main, yeah.
But
We
that,
have,
yeah.
we finished the brainwashing to the,
Yeah.
the Japanese academic people. So Let's Encrypt is not, it is not sufficient.
Right.
To the, as a target.
But
And also, recent EV は出してない。
Hi.
We
Yes.
stopped the EV service.
yes,
But, we have a code
code signing.
code signing.
Yeah.
Client certificate and a server certificate.
Yes.
That's our service.
Yeah.
And once upon a time, the Komodo was, the tender, but after that, the Japanese company.
Yep. And would you like to run a hosted Let's Wi-Fi service for the region, since you have code signing certificates, which are useful for iPhones? I think iPhone is the only device that actually requires that profile sign. I think. Have you done Let's Wi-Fi? No. So it's a device-specific account. You use your Gakunin credentials to log in to a portal to get a device-specific account yeah, for your for your phone or your laptop.
Or authentication. not into machine actions.
No, for eduroam purposes.
Okay.
It's only if you're less based.
So what the hosted eduroam provide? So I
No.
think
No. No.
It's again,
Yeah, so data drone is the same as Let's Wi-Fi. And the Federation account get every time you log in, you get a new credential for a device.
or every time you need to log in to your federated account. Now with them.
Now,
Once a year.
and so like the Malaysians create 3-month accounts.
Mhm.
I think someone did a presentation, they were talking about 6 months accounts.
And we do 12 months.
Yeah, and the UK, they do 13 months so that you get it at the start of the academic year and it will still work until you come back and enroll the next year.
Because
So
it's still doing that access.
yeah, so the like, and you can always expire the account. If
Yeah.
Right.
It's not so easy to expire. Yes.
no, you can, and the device will not all, right? And the bonus is it will silently fail. It won't complain that it can't connect to eduroam. It just won't connect to eduroam anymore. So it's an interesting. We will get back to talk to you because code signing certificates are becoming increasingly difficult to get because
The hardware tokens.
they now have to be on hardware tokens, right? You can't do them software based. So if you got them a few years ago and you got them for 3 years, you can do that. But now they have to be a year long and they have to be on hardware tokens. And then obviously your browser certificates are getting shorter and shorter. Google is enforcing.
Well, that's 1 year. We are seeing.
Google wants 3 months or something, don't they? They have a 3-month and a 10-day proposal. So
You have to
then,
have about one. Then you
Yeah. You need to use that.
but then CCOM will offer that ACME protocol endpoint because there's lots of people that do that now. So yeah, it will just be which is the old Komodo, the new Komodo.
So which means that your federation metadata is also making sure that.
No.
The Federation data has long lived, ours.
Oh.
Many years.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're using commercial certificates to protect your metadata,
That's
that
bad.
will be a problem because you'll have to do key rollovers.
Yeah.
You'll get
That's
very
why I said.
you'll get very good key rollovers, admittedly, because most people are intending on retiring before their first key rollover.
The second key rule.
Yeah, because everyone did a 3 or 5 year certificate and then they had to do a key rollover.
We did done the key rule. We did 20.
Yeah.
You know.
The other is to completely forget about you.
Because if something happens, you'll stop signing that certificate. And that's not a problem.
We happen to do key rollovers for proxies to Azure. So there's some of them that provides a 2-3 year certificate. We have
They
that
are going
connection.
down to 1 year. So we have that problem with ADFS first standard.
Thank you.
I'm pronouncing that completely wrong, but no.
That's,
Yes.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
nice to see you.
And your emotional support there.
We have something from the board. It's fine. Little's good. I'll have lots of questions. for you.
It's not the size, it's what you do with it.
Okay. See you after.
Okay, thank you.
Questions of it.
Almost do the wrong thing.
Yes. So, hello, this is Neeraj. Regarding others, IDP, I also shared these things in the previous stage as well. Right now we have a 40 plus institutions are connected, and we have provided. That means 40 IDPs are created there, and then obviously there are 40 service provider, and some additional service providers are there who doesn't have the ADPs, like TI airports and some other organizations as well. And most of them, the IDPs are hosted on the Enrance cloud because of the resource scarcity and the technical lack of the technical expertise of the college and universities. And then we have some more 4 or 5 institutions are in pipeline because they just have the MOUs to us. And certainly coming week, we'll provide some more IDPs. And then regarding the IDPs, only NN members can get the IDPs. Non-NN, either the private or government, non-government. There is no any restriction because NN is there is like an NGO type of organizations. It's not government owned there. Most of the rents are in the university owned or government owned or government funded, but in our case that is different. So it's in the NGO model. So we are also providing for sustainability private research organizations or any medical colleges, whether public, we will provide the connectivity if they wanted to. And I just told yesterday that recently we have up the DJNR, and you can see there the 40 organizations are the listed. And regarding the database, we are still fighting on the database, and then we don't have the team right now to work with regarding some organizations ask us for the logs. How many remote participants or some roaming participants are in our organizations? And we are not giving the concrete data because we haven't studied it. We have the raw data. So we are not working on that part. That is also one of the lag, and we are struggling on that.
So AM2 doesn't have a dashboard analyzing the logs or statistics.
We're building one again, but of course the iteration. We're actually now collecting.
Till now, we are not okay. Shall I? Okay, till now we haven't providing elegant service till date, but we are planning to work on it and just finalize that. We enable up choosing simple HTML PSP for the federation. So one guy who is working with us, he's share the slides why we are doing that. But most of our members use MySQL based DB on the backend for IDP readings. So we prefer that. And we host most of the members IDP's SP, as I already told, for EDROM, and going with tools like Civility is cost center for us. Thank you.
I'll have a thing now. I broke your chair.
Yeah. As we Statler and Waldorf. Need a picture of it.
My laptop will run out of power.
Oh,
I've got a plug. Sorry? I've got power. It says.
there is one there.
I'm gonna go this way.
That's much easier now when you.
Slowest computer ever. Yeah, can I use that or? I'll zoom if that's easier. Yeah, I can do that. I don't need that plugged in. Yeah. Means I don't have to join Zoom now.
And Statler and Waldorf.
So some of these slides will be like bland and white background. Other slides will be much more exciting because we now have a new comms person who's going through and refreshing all our slides and making them beautiful. I am crap at making slides beautiful, so I don't try. So the AIF, we make it easier for researchers to securely access national and international research applications and data sets. That's what we do. Thumbs up. And that's our message. We're all about messaging and selling this stuff to folk. We make it easier for students to securely access learning and teaching services, all through single sign-on stuff. We have a new vision. We seem to have a new vision and mission every year or every 5 years as we do our strategic planning. And I'm not sure if this is our current one or not, or if it's last year's, but I think it's current. Our vision is to lead access management for Australian education, research, government and industry. So we broaden our scope to be more than just education and research. We're trying to engage with government researchers and industry researchers because that's what our research communities are asking for. They want to be able to research with everybody in the country and globally. Our mission is to deliver secure access and identity services to connect Australian teachers, students, and researchers with global online services. It's a fairly simple motherhood type statements, but hopefully our CIOs and others at that level will understand that this is our mission and goals. So here's one of my boring slides again. One of our things we do is run the Federation, the Australian Access Federation. We've been doing it since 2009-ish. We have 50 plus identity providers, which includes the majority of our universities. There are 3 universities that we don't have in the Federation, and they're mostly international universities that have come into Australia and just have a presence within Australia. We have over 500 service providers within the AAF. Some are SAML, some are OIDC, and some are using a JSON web token interface that we built before OIDC became a thing, a real thing. As Vlad mentioned this morning, we've rebuilt our Federation tools. We have a new Federation Manager tool for registering services of all types. Previously, we had a very manual system to register our OIDC and JSON Web Tokens thing. They're all now integrated together. So an organization that has an IDP or a service uses our Federation Management tool and registers it and maintains it within that Federation Management tool. We also run a support team, which I head up. We're a team of 3. Hopefully we'll be a team of 4 sometime soon as we continue to grow and expand our service set. We also run the ORCID Consortium. We're the ORCID Consortium lead, and we're doing a lot of work with persistent identifiers across the sector. So for ORCID, we provide discounted access to ORCID for our members. We support our community and its growth. So we have Melroy, who does a lot of engagement with folk around the place. You've met Melroy, I think. He's very enthusiastic, keen, and gets out there and really makes a noise about how useful and great ORCIDs are. And he's also getting into the persistent identifier space a lot more now that we are expanding that horizon as well. And we also provide an ORCID portal for smaller institutions that don't do their own integrations, so they can register their people in this portal and assign associations with themselves to their organization without actually having to do any technical configuration or setup. And this is something that ORCID's been providing now, I think, for a year or so. We're one of the sort of beta sites for that product. With regards to persistent identifiers, we're taking a leadership role in guiding the community on how to use persistent identifiers, which persistent identifiers are the ones to use, and working with our community to help define those standards and guidelines and so forth. The ones obviously we're mostly concentrating on at the moment is ORCID. There's one that's been around for a few years now, but it's starting to get some traction, which is the RAID, which is the Research Activity Identifier. And that's more a grab bag to hold a whole raft of other identifiers around the research activity. I believe the Netherlands are running up a service to start minting these RAIDs, and there's another country that I'm not sure of, and somewhere in Australia would be also minting RAIDs for research activities.
I can understand the importance of that, the project identifier, the activity identifier, but how do you interact with, as a federation, identity federation, with the research activity identifier?
It's not, we don't interact, it's just a separate piece of the business. So we're supporting that and growing that, and ORCIDs will fit into that. So there's an ORCID relationship there. RAWs will fit into that as well. Equipment identifiers, dataset equipment, dataset identifiers will all be bundled together, and we're looking at how that will help track usage across the life of a project, from when it's first initiated, funding is assigned to it, work is done, people do stuff, that ORCIDs are added, equipment's used, that's added, datasets are used, that's all added. But at the end of the day, you've got this nice package of all of the RAID, all of the identifiers that were used in that research activity.
Yeah, but this is also the part of the activity under the AAF, right? So which means that as a AAF perspective, you're also trying to track the, the researcher's whole entire activity rather than the Identity Federation?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So I can see a usage for this. Especially in the US, they are starting to talk about authorization. Trying to get authorization to fly again with federations. And you can specify an entitlement for this, or a way of writing entitlements. That you do raid and add the identifier at the end. That's total possibility to handle. Then you use the federation as a vehicle to transfer it.
So we're only really starting out on this journey and working with other research collaborators on how best to use these raids. The first step was to actually get standards and I think there's ISO standard or some sort of standard that actually defines what a raid is and how it's used. Now we've got to get that to the community and get them to understand how to use it. So that's what one of Melroy's tasks is. And I think we're going to get another Melroy to help him do that stuff. I can't guarantee that, but we'll see. So there's many other persistent identifiers. There's a persistent identifier working group in Australia, and that's also integrating with persistent identifier working groups internationally. So Melroy tends to trip around a fair bit and be part of lots of identifier type conversations. Supporting institutions. We provide Rapid IDP, which is our hosted IDP solution. It's a cloud-based identity provider. Sits on Amazon's AWS infrastructure and has lots of security stuff wrapped around it. Up to 75% of our organization running IDPs have already migrated. Any new organization that joins as an IDP will be offered it as part of the package of being a Federation member, rather than having them to run up their own identity provider. The majority are proxying to their enterprise IDP. We have support anything that can do SAML pretty much. We'll support. Majority are doing either Entra or Okta in Australia. We have a few pings. We've got one Google. I think we've got one other. Oh, we've got an Oracle identity provider coming on board soon, which is our New South Wales health organization. It's become very popular for the following reasons: loss of technical skills within institutions that can run these things, and the big move to the cloud. All the IT directors just want everything in the cloud. They don't want to take any responsibility for running anything themselves. That they then push back on us and say, well, what are your service level agreements? What are your availability agreements? All that sort of stuff. So we have to work extra hard to make sure that happens. It does give us some major advantages in that we've always got the latest software running on these things. We're always updating it, keeping it fresh, which means for those organizations using it, one of the tick boxes in the baseline is sort of done, and SIRTFI is done for them, that they're running the latest version of software. There's lots of advantages. We also run a verification service. This is in complete competition to in academia. That's still a thing. Yeah, well, we've got the UK Federation and us unverified. It's a service where it will just say, are you, answer the question, are you a student? But do it in a very privacy preserving way. Just get a yes or a no. We won't get any identity information about the student. And it's really good for people who are selling services, food, and other things that students want discounts for. And the company selling or offering those services want to verify that that student is a current enrolled student at the university. Our charging model or our sustainability model is per verification microcharging. So every verification is successful. Whereas when I mean successful is they get a yes or no answer, then we charge them, I think, 38 cents a go. that adds up pretty quick. And we also offer this service, or the UK also run this service. We take a clip off every one of their verifications. And they've got a lot more students than us. And we're happy to expand this service to other federations that are interested in running a similar verification service. We basically run the infrastructure, you bring the students and the federation, and we'll just charge you a fee to run it. You don't need to really do much more, and you will also collect the rest of the fee. So it's a bit of an income stream if you want to have a look at that. We provide a simple API to connect to it. We have a relatively small number of customers because our customers are basically verification aggregators who then on-sell their service to the real companies that are selling the Spotifys, the Domino's pizzas and those sort of things. We'll use verification aggregators, which we then deal with. So we're not actually dealing with hundreds of vendors, we just deal with a small number, which means we don't basically do anything. We set it up and it just makes money for us. It's great. We also provide other associations that can also be verified. So we can verify if a person's a staff member or if they're an alumni or whatever, basically EduPerson affiliation values are there. So we can say, yes, you're one of these or one of these or one of those. That's a nice little money spinner and it just ticks over. We have a new research team. And their initial aim is to understand the landscape of research in Australia in a much more detailed way than we currently have been we've been doing up to date. They've been running a number of trust and identity pathfinder activities with various communities. For example, Biocommons community. There's many folk in the Biocommons across many institutions, both within the Federation and beyond the Federation. So we're looking at how we can provide better services, do authorization type stuff, do higher levels of assurance, multi-factor authentication, proxying, all of that sort of ARC blueprint type stuff. Step up stuff, yeah. Yeah. And we're actually getting funding from the government because we're actually making a step change or step improvement to the services that we are providing to our Federation members. The next step beyond that is some new tools to support these communities, again, based on the ARC blueprint and development of policies, again, around the ARC blueprint policy set that's been worked on. So we have a team of about 6 people sort of working through that at the moment.
I have a question about that ARC blueprint.
Yep.
Are you going, or your new people are they going to be liaising with the new ARC 3 program in EU?
Didn't know there was such a thing. But
Yeah, the next generation of blueprint.
I would expect they'll be very much enthusiastic to do that.
Yeah, make them talk to Licia. She's the one running it.
So one of our guys is actually over in Europe this week at some conference. It's doing all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah. I think, yeah, I know where he is. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you met Nick. Sure you will sometime. He generally hangs around with John, the others. So their mission, they've got a vision and mission, transforming Australian research infrastructure through trust and identity, system-wide adoption of trust and mission type stuff. So they're very keen to make that happen. And initially it was a project. It's starting to move more into becoming just part of the AAF, and it'll just be another service that we offer through the AAF to our communities. We also became a NCRIS, which is a national, I'm not even sure what NCRIS stands for. I hate these. You know what it stands for, Brooke?
National.
Yeah.
Research infrastructure.
Cyber research.
Type.
Would be.
National Collaborative Research Infrastructure Strategy.
Yeah. So that's a federally funded thing. They get a big bundle of money for every 5 years. And finally, we can put our hand out and get some of that money to come our way to help fund these step increases. And there's the things that we're trying to do. So ease access to national research infrastructure through seamless services, better access to international research infrastructure, a connected NRI ecosystem for better industry collaboration, safer and more secure NRI ecosystems, transformation across research themes, and impact tracking. So the impact tracking is where all that RAID and PID stuff comes in. So that's why we're sort of doing that. And that's the AAF. Where we're going, it's exciting because we're now at 26, 27 people. It's also very difficult because we're growing. We have all our growing pains. We're also becoming much more conscious of the security requirements that we need to wrap around ourselves, and are starting to move towards getting some of those ISO security numbery 27 thingy numbers. Yeah. We've employed a security person, nice guy, but he's a pain in the ass because he's a security person. Is that what?
We had one dude at the UniSA when I was there, and I said, Kevin said, your job is to make us do it safely, not say we can't do it.
Yep.
Because often they're just like, I want to do this. No.
That's the same thing. Lawyers.
Yeah. Lawyers make things possible.
Yeah.
Their default is not to make it possible.
So, any questions for what we're doing in the AAF space?
So the last part, impact tracking, is mainly focusing on the research infrastructure impact tracking, and also, for instance, the research output in impact tracking. So they are targeting on the both way, or
It's right from getting your funding, tracking that all the way through. Was that funding effective, and how well was it tracking that all the way through from beginning to end?
And then this is the part, so gonna be growing, sending the data to the government or funding agency, or the research assessment framework, or something. So we also has the team for building up the knowledge base behind the discovery service. And the impact factor is not only the indicators for evaluating the research itself. So we have to have much more different type of the evaluators, indicators.
Pseudonymized,
Yeah.
not. We are seeing that in Europe. We need to pseudonymize things that you cannot trace it back to specific individuals, because then, of course, as you know, we have a small law called GDPR. Yes. Yeah. So that's the hard part. We cannot use the PIDs. We must use pseudonymized PIDs in those type of reporting.
Okay, well, that's 10 minutes to 5. I'm not going to do any more today. It's Brooks' turn.
Short. Although I don't know the.
I don't know you being short.
Zoom thing.
Can you use one of these? Can you use HDMI, or do you need HDMI to USB-C? So we all have one of those.
Let's see.
Will it work? Is this my presentation? Yes, it is. Do I wish to allow this accessory? Yes, I wish to allow it. I found the hole, I got the right way up. We just went really dark and weird. That's what it said. Now it's really small. Okay. So NSRC, I sometimes belong to these guys now. So this is actually a photo from our most recent event. You'll actually see it now has Brooke. I'm actually not this tall. The bonus is of being at the back of this photo, I was able to stand on my tippy toes. So I was able to tower over people. But the NSRC does, that's an awful map still, does a lot of training programs all across the planet, since 1992. It's been doing it for a very long time. The most popular courses we do, old information for people who were here yesterday, but campus network design and operations, very popular course that we do about fixing your campus network. Network monitoring and management often complements the campus network design workshop. And then there's a series of BGP courses that are more advanced networking. If you want to run an IXP, if you have something particular, very popular in the network operation group community. You can find out more about activities that the NSRC run here. But actually, one of the things that they want to do is add identity training to the mix, have a focus on identity and access management to cover both single sign-on, web single sign-on, as well as edge your own. So the questions are things like, who's the target audience? Right? Is it just NRENs and federation operators? Because obviously a course for that group is very different than a course for campuses. And also you've eventually got content and service providers in that mix. And so the courses that the NSRC compose are up to 5 days long. So campus network design and operations flexes between 3 and 5 days long, depending on sort of the topics you want to cover. So the idea, it will be modular. It's got a range of prerequisites. We have our own infrastructure platform to deliver that course, but what sort of tools do we cover? And then eventually at the end, direct engineering assistance. So this is often the course, but obviously the broader you target a course, campuses don't really need to know about the operation of the federation. Right? That's the joy of being in a campus. Your federation looks after that for you. Right? Except in many territories, they're still doing federation, or they don't understand federation. So there's a need for both those things. As we know here in TFIM, we often cover federation development more than we do campus development, because the audience are those that are likely to be federation operators. Sort of what knowledge should we presume, or what additional training? So like I'm wanting input from you guys. Now we know that NSRC has some training. We know that APNIC has a lot of those online modules, so people can actually do prerequisite courses to upskill and better understand the concepts and some of the techniques. But generally we just say a sysadmin, but being a sysadmin varies wildly, right? Because the federation space, SAML and XML, and the tool set can be often very, very different than if you're a sysadmin and you generally look after DNS or you look after a mail server, right? So it's not always easy to transpose it. Some people don't understand certificates, right? And everyone knows when you've done a course and you talk about certificates, conflating self-signed certificates versus commercial certificates and let's encrypt, that you can end up getting down in the weeds on some very simple points. And then we've got platforms, right? There's so much stuff that litters our environment that, okay, free radius is a given really for edge your own use, unless the site is already, they already run Cisco, or they already run dedicated radius servers integrated into their Wi-Fi. You've got Simple SAML PHP, Fish, or SHIB, or Identity Python. But you also have tools like Free IPA and Go Authentic as other platforms. So sort of, I'd like an idea of what people bother to deploy and what's the flavor of the month, or what's sustainable. Yeah, interject.
So what we're seeing, I don't know, it's the same here, but what we're seeing is more or less open software, more and more closed software. What I mean with closed software is you buy Ping, you buy Octus, or you do Enter ID or ADFS or Google. You don't run those free softwares anymore because they are a hassle to run for, because most sysadmins doesn't run Linux at all. They do it on Windows.
Yeah.
Because that is what they use nowadays.
Yeah.
So there is another landscape, depending on where you are in the world, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you go into the old universities in Europe, they run Linux. The new one run AD or do everything in Entras.
Yeah.
If you go down to Africa, it's more of the things you have here.
Yeah. Or even only Google Apps for Education or G
Yeah,
Suite, right?
yeah.
They don't have identity. Well, I
No.
mean, the college that we
They
went to
have
recently,
Entra or Google Suite.
yeah.
That's the standard nowadays, even.
Mm.
And what we are seeing is how to get federation into those type of. You can do it by proxy, you can do it by a toolkit that we have, for example, down for ADFS. So we can run a totally ADFS setup with correct multi-tenant or our type of federation. But that type of things is what is the new standard, not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a DIY. This is like going to a hardware store and getting all of the components to build a house.
Or
And
to
actually-
the foundry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people want a working service. They don't want to have to build it themselves. And so that's why Sifilan, Farhan's developed Toolkit, which is a hosted service that works for a lot of the use cases within Malaysia, and you just use it rather than, I mean, I remember Volvo made this concept car, right? And one of the things was the bonnet was sealed, and everyone was like complaining. I think it was supposed to be a woman's concept car, right? And there was a lot of criticism. And like, if you open up the bonnet, you could only get to the oil, the washer fluids.
So that is an Audi in production.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I own a Volvo, and you open up the bonnet, and they're the user serviceable bits that I don't even service, right? The mechanic even fills up my washer fluid, right? But yeah, I don't actually want to know how my car works, other than I put fuel in one hole and I can optionally put washer fluid in the other. I actually want it to get me to the end point. I don't want to know how an engine works. I just, yeah.
Yes, hidden.
People don't actually want to know timing. I remember a friend telling me using a strobe light for timing of an old Holden engine, right? This is the stuff, I mean, we're trying to teach people to build their own engine for a car, but actually the incentive in the campus is not that. The incentive of the campus, because the difficult work is getting academics and students to bother to use it, and getting the resources that the academics and students want. That should be the hard part of federation, not gluing 5 pizzas of software together. So it's how we try and scale that work. And we don't, Campus Network Design and Operations doesn't go on and have a sysadmin course. How do you read log files? How do you do error messages? That's quite low level and quite difficult. Actually, I found this other picture of OpenLDAP. It's gone from a worm to a butterfly, which is I thought quite interesting. And then the other thing that NSIC does is this direct engineering assistance, where we actually work with the host of a training course on some hands-on, how to fix whatever their most pressing problems are. And And what would you do in an identity style direct engineering assistance, right? You know, would you do the defining the sources of truth? Are you going to synchronize identity sources? And how difficult and strange will campus environments be? Because they can be very, I mean, Terry and I grew up in Australian universities in the bad old days where we had the weirdest of homegrown systems to glue together identity management. Yeah, it was lots of scripts. You exported. I was at a uni, we would use a VT100 terminal to export out a list of students and then process that with, I think it was a Perl script on a Windows NT4 box to create accounts, right? Because there were no automated tools to do that. And even if there are, those automated tools are very specific to the environments you have and not generally, you know, it's hard to generalize, right? And going into a campus that, wow, if I walked into my campus of 20 odd years ago, was it 20 years ago or was it earlier than that? 25, 30? Okay. You know, you'd be like, wow, this is a difficult problem to try and solve in a short hands-on thing. I'm not saying that we don't do it. We do it on the networking side, and the guys, I've observed this, and you know, getting to grips with what your network is like and trying to make suggestions, truly genius.
We still do it on identity side, getting data out of our HR or student registries into our identity systems are still work of magicians.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm soliciting feedback and I'm looking for answers. And I know we've built courses a lot over time, but what sort of thing should we be teaching people? As opposed to, for a long time, we've told people to go to the hardware store and get the individual components. But actually, is that the thing we should be teaching?
I guess the most important skill in federation or NLM people, especially, you know, focusing on the young people, is to be so tough guy. You know, so all the time we got the tons of like requests and the complaint from the university side. So behave as listening the voice from the university side all the time and also kicking under the table. So it's a very important skill in
Another very important skill is community skill.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so it's what the community, how you can get self-support longer term. So
No,
what is the community deciding to?
So what I'm talking about community skill is how to build and evolve communities.
Yeah, that's right. You know, usually the engineer is not good at to communicate, you
No.
know, fluently, but you know, once you know they has a position in LN,
Mhm.
always have to communicate with. So it's a crucial part of
Yeah.
LN people.
It's the most important part, I think. The technology is simple, community is hard. I normally say that federation is 50% technology, 50% policy, and 50% community.
Yes.
Communities does not be from the NRN or federation operated. You can, of course, use other communities.
Yeah, I have seen that in a lot of places where they don't have communities, right? They're almost like there needs to be a course on how to be an NREN, right? Because one of the most powerful things, I think, from SurfNet, Nordernet community as well, and I haven't experienced anything locally for SUNET, but it's the fact that they get people together and not just force them to watch presentations, but also get them to talk and discuss issues, and that community building, because sorry to burst your bubble, your problems aren't unique, right? Everyone's got the same problems, maybe going at it at a slightly different angle. And that's why, I mean, we hear the same repeated problems in this fora, right? People are having difficulty getting federations off the ground. No matter how rich you are or how poor you are, you have the same challenges of getting people to do, federation.
So that is a very cultural thing.
Mm.
It's easy in some part of the world, like the great Nordic countries, the Nordic countries plus Netherlands.
Yeah.
We are built for consensus.
Yes.
So that's the way we work. But in some other part of the world, it's very closed down.
Mm.
So depending on where you are, community is more or less hard.
Well, I mean, we get it in Australian universities. Some are willing to collaborate, and others, because other unis are competitors, they think they're too good to participate, right? And it's like diminishing returns, guys. Like, if you don't turn up, you won't find out that everyone's got the same problem and are fighting the same, fight.
I think I want to put some points and ask some questions, maybe relevant or not, but just what is the practice in Nepal? There are many engineers, you may say IT personnel in the universities, especially we deal with. They don't have the specific job, right? They mostly do their documentation part and other things, simple support, and if anything, maybe they have some network service and some hardware they got from their vendors. If any problem they talk to the vendors. I mean to say that they are not focused on their computing job. My experience there. So it's very difficult to train them, because the system, if they have their own system, then they are forced to do something, but they don't have the system, right? Hardware resource and other things, everything. As I say that, we have hosted almost 30 plus IDPs for them, because they don't have the resources. And even the management, they don't want to understand. I think there is a fight between the technical persons and the management team. They want very good network and good services, but they don't invest the things right things on right things, right? For equipments and other things. They invest in the bandwidth, but they don't invest in the device, right? They have a lot of water in the tank. The whole the house is filled with water, but they don't have only have the dispensaries for little. So I mean to say that they are not very. Technical guys also have some lack that they fail to advocate that what we need. If you purchase this much of bandwidth, you need this. I mean to say that. So regarding the training, it is a very difficult to get which person is eligible to get the training. I think you said that there's a system admin is a quite big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just tough. So we are also some difficulties there. We are providing the front end as them. So one guy has developed that front end to create the users and other things. We will give them.
Yeah.
Still, they are asking. They don't put any efforts to do from their time. Okay, we will make some developments and bulk create the bulk user IDs if we have some Excel system and other things. Still, we are not doing that, and the manual still they are doing a manual, right?
Yeah.
So I mean to say that first, if you have to one training I attend that they first sensitize in the online course. If you were doing the physical things or main course, doing that main course 15 days before or 1 month before, you have some sensitization on these. You have to work on this. You have to work on this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it could would not be very effective.
I think,
That's
I
my-
mean, so this is Abraham Wald, my 5th favorite Hungarian. So the 4 people ahead of him know who they are. And so the problem is we're already talking to the wrong set of people, right? So we're talking to the set of people that actually want to fix or know that they've got a problem and want to fix it, right? It's a bit like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? You have to start up by announcing, I'm an identity management professional and I have a problem. And a lot of campuses don't know that. They don't know to ask that problem in the first case. And what I've seen going to a limited number of places is some colleges and universities don't even want to train their staff because they fear that by training them, they will leave and get a better job. But the alternative is that you have stupid people work for you, right? And that's not a useful situation either, right? And so you have to try and, you want to train people, you need them to know that they've got a problem and they need to solve it, and that there is actually solutions out there. But yeah, I'm not too sure how we structure our course. This guy was famous for, when you get a plane that lands back on a carrier, and then you decide to put armor in all of the locations that there are bullet holes in order to protect the plane, you've got the wrong data set, because the planes that don't fly back got shot somewhere else, right? And so the people who don't make it are, you actually have to put armor in all of the locations where there aren't bullet holes, which is counterintuitive. So that's what he became famous for. And so, we actually have people not requesting help. And actually, that's the missing set. That all of the colleges, all of the NRENs that aren't in this room, and we know from the map, right? It's not colored in. It's all of those people that actually need some assistance. And, from the 600 other organizations in Japan that haven't joined Gakunin, they're the ones that need the assistance, because we know they've got a problem.
Or maybe the Brook, you have to start a 2 weeks Brook summer camp. So annually, we're going to send, the young guy to your Brook camp in Tasmania and spending,
Yeah.
Or a nice place in Japan. Oh, yeah. For us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is one problem I see that is more than technology, is making management understand why they need to do stuff, both at NRN level, because what we see is federations popping up, and then the NRN leadership give them less money to work, and they more or less been stale for a while, and then pop up, they've been stale, pop up, they've been stale.
Yeah.
And we have the same thing at universities and other organizations.
That's right. The NLN is always, have to go beyond from the university and has a leadership. So that management skill or leadership skill is so important in the people in the NLN, I guess.
So we can see that in Bangladesh, where the CIO comes to these meetings and he brings his staff with him. He tells his staff to do stuff. He's top down. He's got a federation now. He was very embarrassed that he didn't have a federation earlier and that he was slow to get off the ground. But now he is. He's growing it. He's understanding what it is. He's talking to his equivalents at the university, and they are starting to understand. But it's a slow process.
I was talking to Eric Kickenborg, right? And he was doing the Zoom projects supported by Nordernet. And he was also promoting Identity Federation, right, in the region for those territories that were getting Zoom licenses, and said, you need to put Identity Federation in front of Zoom so that you have, increased usage of it. Now, the only NREN that did this is Depthy, right? She's not paying attention, but oh no, that's because I mispronounced her name and she isn't even knowing I'm talking about her. Oh no, now I realize he's talking about me and I wasn't paying attention. But because Learn had developed their Identity Federation for supporting Zoom, they then benefited from having an Identity Federation during the pandemic. while all the other federations, all the other NRENs were scrambling for a federation in that time at the worst possible time to try and do that. And so it's lucky that we had Thelina as an interested engineer, and he got DEPTHI on board, and there was a transition of power there. So the service didn't falter in that transition. But so very often it's a single engineer that looks after these services. And if there's a transition, it dies.
So one big thing about ident federations, to make it work, you need to have the killer app. All the time, you need to have the killer app. And we have gone 3 different waves. I mean, 3 different killer apps. The first one was that time Zoom, Adobe Connect. That was the first one. The second one was the national admission system.
Sorry.
The national admission system to universities. We have 4. Excuse me. I mean, the third one was our consortia-based student registry system. They are driving assurance. The last, what we are starting to see now, is that drive assurance. Now we have something that drives MFA and assurance at the same time, and that is a service called EduSign to sign documents. So you need to find the different killer apps for different positions in your work, not just the first time, but you need to find them all the way.
There's no space sharing such kind of information in a refresh meeting or TNC meeting, so it's that kind of information. So the killer application or, the success story from each individual federation. So it's so important to the Apan community as well.
It is. That's why I always talk about students, not researchers, because the researchers will get so much off if the students got it, because they are the big ones.
Yeah, student everywhere.
Yeah. And then if you have the students, you have the teachers are researchers, and so on and so on.
Yeah, and I mean, like we keep getting asked about the killer app, right? And Terry brought it up maybe 2 meetings ago, that the federation itself is the killer app, right? The federation is the glue between identities and services. And you had an evolution of killer apps. Some people got one killer app that caused a sea change. Some people ended up with thousands of tiny minor killer apps that were specific for their institution that got them over the line. And so, we don't seem to see those big, the big killer apps now.
No.
It's the evolution. If you have federation, the second, third, fourth wave is easier because you've got the infrastructure. It's not.
So federation as killer app, it's very hard to sell.
Yeah.
But it is a real killer app, but it's extremely hard to sell.
Yeah.
So
And so if DEPTHI needs training in Sri Lanka, contact the NSRC.
That's it for today. See you tomorrow at 9 for a minutes, mate. Again, thank you guys for putting up with us.
thank you.
I will go and drop this and then go down to.
No, the dinner's almost directed now.
It's in 10 minutes.
Right.
It's the dinner.